Hi. Marking John Galliano's STEM year anniversary at the Dior, the Haute Couture Spring-Summer 2007 collection was inspired by Madame Butterfly, Giacomo Puccini's famous opera, which tell the story of the young geisha girl Sioshio-san and her ill-fated affair with the American Lieutenant Pinkerton, who abandons her shortly after their wedding. In 1900, the composer was in London for 6 weeks to observe the premiere of Tosca at Covent Garden, when he was persuaded to go to the Duke of York's theatre for a double bill of one-act plays, including Madame Butterfly. Puccini knew almost nothing in Italian, but even though he barely understood the words, he burst into tears. As soon as the curtain fell, he rushed backstage and begged American playwright David Belasco for permission to remake the play into an opera. It took almost 4 years, until February 1904, before this tale of an ill-fated romance between East and West debuted as an opera at the Teatro La Scala in Milan. It did not go well. In fact, it was a fiasco, accompanied by hisses and taunts. Puccini immediately withdrew the score. The composer made significant changes and presented the opera again a few months later in Brescia, where it was received by the audience for 7 encores and 32 curtains. The following year, Madame Butterfly was again presented in London, this time as an opera. In 1907, after some other changes, it opened at New York's Metropolitan Opera with the composer himself. In more than 100 years, Madame Butterfly has rarely, if ever, left the hearts of audiences. The tenderness of cherry blossoms, a blizzard of confetti butterflies, and the gamut of glamour from geisha to Christian Dior's new look kicked off the 2007 Haute Couture season. And it was an emotional moment for all those who have been through Galliano's decade-long journey at the premier Parisian fashion house. It doesn't feel like 10 years, but it had everything I did, including Mr. Dior, Galliano said, referring to 1950s dresses with skirts that waved like waves. Colors and patterns used kimono as a creative source, but in outfits that were often charmingly slim and accessible. The headpieces alone, pagoda hats, blossoming sakura branches, chopsticks and pink miniature lanterns, were the extraordinary contributions of milliner Stephen Jones, and the graphic stripes of eyeshadow on a white face were the work of exceptional makeup artist Pat McGrath. The decor was skimpy, like a Japanese floral arrangement, yet striking in its three-dimensional effect: peonies, interwoven panels, or even appliqué scraps in relief. The handwork was exquisite, and the whole show was the essence, true and pure, of high fashion. Together with his team, Galliano created a show in just 6 weeks that was graphic, crisp with pencil strokes, but also hazy with references to Japan and Dior's past. Even the poses of the models, alternatively balancing on geisha sandals or jutting their hips forward as in the glory days of couture, gave the show a special feel. It was Galliano in his romantic way, his imagination free, but with a clear discipline that came from a growing collaboration with Haute Couture Ateliers. How they so effortlessly created box-shaped wings on the hips of a slim dress or a sweep of fabric at the neckline was a mystery of couture art and craft. There were also moments of fantasy, such as an extravagant lime green coat over a tulle dress, taken from Dior's previous collection dedicated to 20th century couturier Paul Poiret. But mostly Galliano traded Christian Dior's favorite currency, female beauty. Models followed a winding route, stopping in front of twisted Japanese branches or giant versions of the grey pigeon chairs of the Christian Dior Salon. The appearance of the designer himself in the finale dressed as Colonel Pinkerton from Madame Butterfly was a witty gesture. It doesn't feel like 10 years, but everything I have done was in it, including Mr. Dior, Galliano told Susie Menkes, who hailed the collection as his most beautiful yet for Dior. And I totally agree with her.